What's up, everybody? Welcome back to NLC Division 2. Viper and Solari taking you through the second game of the day. We've got Raid and Rising Dawn Esports and Solari. First game of the day. Pretty all action. A lot of scrapping and skirmishing and fighting. Could we see the same in game number 2?
I think so. I definitely think so. I'm more interested about how Raid are going just to feel in this game in general, because right now they are on like the very top of the tournament board, the second place for them, but will they manage to stay there? Will they manage to keep this place for themselves? Because we just saw Monster losing a game. Monster, who were also on the second place, is something like that going to happen in this game or not? Because it's always, I don't know how it's for you, but for me, for every split I've casted, in the very middle, all the crazy changes start happening for the teams. Everybody who was on the winning streak suddenly lose, and the opposite. So I'm very excited for today, and for this game specifically too.
There's a lot to love about this one. And as you said, the game that we just had, Lucent having such a dominant victory, does kind of reframe this game a little bit. Rising Esports 4-4, only one position below Rate at the moment. Could they come play spoiler? If they win this game, then they're going to be all tied up with Rate and, of course, with Monster now, who have lost out on that last game. So they could put themselves in a very strong position in this playoff conversation as we move forward into the second half of the split. However, if we see Rate win this game, they're going to jump above Monster Rugby Gaming. They're setting up a good precedent for the rest of the teams playing later than them in the day and saying, hey, look, teams like Unique, teams like even Domino, for example, you're going to have to keep up the pace with us, and you can't all be winning League of Legends games as we jump into Champion Select. Of course, Raid on the blue side, Rising Esports on the red. We're going to see some targeted bans. We've got the Akshan, of course. We've got the Cassiopeia. I'm just watching my eyes for the banks that Darius, to be honest.
Oh my god, that would be so good. And Darius would be so good in the current meta as well, just going and completely demolishing the top lane. Some more bans in. I am really still thinking about the jungle bans, to be honest, with Diana already coming in. Yes, you're eliminating some of the powerhouse possible for you for the team fights from the jungle, but do you want to eliminate more of those? And do you want to eliminate Wukong, which is always like the main question for me right now. Wukong is just such a high priority jungler. You want to get rid of him. Karthus, to be honest as well, we don't see him that much because he's more of a niche pick in the jungle, but he can be just oh so powerful. Not so impactful maybe in the early because he just wants to be farming, he wants to be scaling up. But oh boy, when this boy scales up, it is just so dangerous for everybody on the map.
And we know what Fan RL can do on this champion because we've seen it before. So the Seraphine being the last ban away, and Noided instantly locks in the Udyr as the priority with so many strong champions out and about. The Udyr, that's an interesting B1 pickup.
I am very biased, but I don't like Udyr right now, and in general as a champion, unfortunately. I'm very sorry for all the Udyr mains out there, but it's just absolutely not my cup of tea, especially with things like Wukong, Volibear, Viego, maybe even Lilia available for you. You decide not to opt into it and go into the Udyr priority. I want to see how it's going to be played around, but right now I'm just a little bit sad maybe. On the other hand, the Ezreal Yumi combination on the other side of the map is a very strong beginning of the draft, starting from the bot lane, getting very strong bot lane combination for yourselves, making sure there is the poke, but more importantly, there is a lot of sustain available for you for the laning phase as well.
We're going to see what the response is going to be. Of course, Katarina hover for troubling, and now we're going to get the Sona. We've seen it a little bit already so far this season. What is it going to be paired up with?
Again, I don't like Sona. It's already 2 champions in a row that I just absolutely don't like.
Raid's just like, we're going to draft everything you hate.
Yeah, keep going. You've done well so far. But Sona, I mean, with the Seraphine ban, you kind of can see that it's like eliminating the stronger version of Sona, so you go in for the Sona because you're not left with any other option. But there are so many other champions that do things that Sona does better. Like if you want to go for the sustain, you can take Karma. For example, if you want to go with that enchant on the bot lane paired up with Jhin, it's going to provide you the sustain, it's going to provide you the poke. Sona will do so the same, but the problem with Sona is that in order to have her poke unleashed, she needs to get pretty close to the enemy. She needs to get pretty close to Ezreal with Yumi sitting on him, so to her as well. And it makes her extremely vulnerable because she doesn't have much health. I think she has one of the lowest base health in all the league champions.
I mean, higher than Yumi, who she's up against, so that's
true.
I mean, verifiably a tank in that regard. But of course, yeah, when you're using Yubi as the
Everybody's a
example for
tank
help.
compared to Yubi. Come on, that's not fair.
Well, we've moved to the second round of bans, though. It's the Lilia lock-in, so Fanara will be getting that AP jungler that we have seen some preference towards, and it's one that can do a lot of work in the current meta. Victor and Tryndamere both taken off the board. We are looking towards solo laners as these bans. Azir is also there. Wouldn't be shocked to see something like the Corki being taken away with Victor and Azir being banned away. It kind of focuses Denzel maybe wanting to get that Corki.
I would say so. It looks like the biggest priority for you to get to the mid lane right now to make sure that you have this sustainable damage for yourself. It means that you have an AP jungler and you have AP damage coming from the mid lane, so I'm not sure how sustainable it is for you later on. With Ezreal already also on your team, you need some very heavy AD coming on the top lane, and with Tryndamere and Darius taken away from you, you have very good AD dealers and some potential lane bullies taken away. What do you go for the top lane here? I think it's the biggest question from you, but we need to see more picks coming from the raid because the top lane here is the last pick. It's, getting saved for dessert.
And giving counter pick to Vangstead, of course, is always very, very nice. So that's how we're going to play this then. Kassadin has been locked in for Errol, and this is a pick that we've seen picked into Corki a little bit in the past. It was kind of the answer before the answers of Azir and Victor, which we were seeing last time Corki was in the meta. Those were the ones that people went to, Azir especially. But with those being taken off the table, they needed a response, and this is very, very fascinating because it gives them something really strong into the layer game, and they've gained some more early aggression with the Olaf. This rate composition has gone from 0 to 100 real quick.
My goodness me. You eliminate the lane bullies and you pick such a strong lane bully for yourself as a response to what you did in the bans, and also you have very strong scaling with that Kassadin on the mid lane. This is a crazy pick from right there, but look at what's happening on the other side of the map as well. If that Jax, yes, it's Jax that is going to be locked. That is a good answer to Olaf because he's going to be able to sustain the damage coming from that champion, and hopefully is going to be able to survive through the very hard early laning phase, because standing against Olaf in the early game is... Yeah, I mean, after the nerfs, it's a little bit better, but only a little bit. Olaf still wants to be the early game bully. That's what he was made for.
Absolutely. I mean, when you've got an Udyr in the jungle against you as well, picking something that can avoid auto attacks is really, really nice. There was a part of me that was thinking, does Vangstead pick Shen here? Is that the opportunity? Is that the answer? But it didn't feel like a true Vangstead pick. No. But then he goes the Jax, and I'm like, yeah, there we go. That's the one. He wants to start 1v1 up against Curl in the top lane. But this rate composition is absolutely fascinating to me. Rising Dawn, they've got that ranged ability. They've got themselves some very strong champions in the patch. They've got the late game opportunities, even more so than we saw in the last game with Lucent, because they've got themselves a Yuumi super good at peeling. They've got a Jax who's just going to scale up and up in the top lane. But this rate composition is it's fascinating more than anything else.
Yes. I would say Raid is a little bit more fascinating to me, and I would probably bet on them right here if they manage to get through the laning phase safely, because there are some ways for Raid to try to shut them down if they unleashed it Udyr early, because it's not what we usually see from Udyr. Udyr wants to be farming up as much as possible. Like, you don't really see him on the lanes in the early game. He is going to be in the jungle. He's own the enemies. What doesn't matter to him. The jungle is where he's going to be. So for... I don't know. I am actually so torn here between the teams, Viper, and I want to hear your opinion because I see so many possibilities for both of them, and it's just, how are they going to execute this? It's so many ways that you can play through this.
Absolutely. I mean, the point for me is I'm going to be watching both of these junglers in this game because not only is that the smart diplomatic answer for every game in this meta, because junglers are so crucial in a meta that is a little bit slower. Lanes aren't necessarily having the same level of onus on themselves to get stuff done 1v1. Vangstead aside, because last time I spoke to that man, he was in a bath. So, like, anything can happen with him up on the top side, especially on Jax. But we are moving our way on to the Rift. Just a quick one to our producer. The scorelines below the teams are the wrong way around. Rising Dawn Esports are actually a team that's 4-4, rate are 5-3. We've made our way onto the Rift. Very, very smart here from both top laners. Curl going for that exhaust and the ghost to give himself that opportunity to run down Vangstead, the ignite and teleport. There's going to be a fight in the first 3 levels in this top lane.
there has to be fight there as early as possible for Olaf, for Curl. Again, that's the champion that wants to be starting early, because later in the game he doesn't scale that well in the late game compared to Jax. If we get to very long game, he's not going to be as good if we just speak strictly about scaling. That's why he needs to get an early prio. Speaking of early prio, what's happening here on the bot?
A lot of damage is happening. What's going on? The cleanse away from the Ignite is great, and Limitless now on the hunt, but probably won't be able to find Hoyes. A lot of summoners actually being blown too from the side of Rising Dawn. Will they be able to catch a kill on to the Jin? He's already gone. Hoyes gets away, but that was very, very close to being a start of a snowball in the bot lane.
Yes, but you lose a flash on Ezreal, which is very crucial for you, because after you dash with your own abilities, you really need the flash to make sure you survive if something comes on your lane from the mid or from the jungle. You don't have the Ignite anymore on Yuumi, so you don't have a little bit of that potential early pressure available for you for some time. So it is good, actually, for raid bot lane here. Yes, you missed the cleanse, but I don't think you're going necessarily to need it that much anymore in the early game here, especially with the Ignite gone already from the equation on the bot.
I mean, the only worry is you do miss out on 2 minions in that first wave, which means that the level 2 advantage is going to be with your opponent on the Ezreal Yuumi, who can look to do something pretty aggressive level 2 with if they want to E forward, if they want to get that damage down. They do have a surprising amount. We think about Ezreal and Yuumi, we think scaling up, safety in lane, and then just go forward. But here's the fight as the exhaust comes down. Curl is running. Vankstead into the ground. Vankstead hits level 2 and manages to jump away, but will he be able to survive? Dodging away from the Undertow, but the axe going to be picked up once again. Vankstead looking to escape, but it's the Ragnarok and roll from Rate as Curl picks up first blood.
We're not even 3 minutes in the game when we already have the first blood. That's not something you see on the durability patch, but Olaf is like, durability patch? I have not heard of that. I'm Olaf. I am going to be so aggressive and I have so much damage in the early game. With the Ghost, with the Exhaust available for you, you want to be going for those fights and you want to be winning them, of course, which is not a problem for you because you're Olaf. Come on.
But that was both summoners being used up. Vankstead teleporting back in has the opportunity to do so and still has the Ignite. So I don't know if scrapping in the top lane is done just yet, but in the mid lane, the Castin in the earliest stages is not going to enjoy this matchup particularly. But as soon as you hit level 6 and can get up in the Corki's face, things become much more pleasant for you. And Errol is a player whose name I associate with Castin. I'm going to have to do a little bit of research on this one. Just to remind myself, but I feel like this is someone whose casting has historically been pretty good.
I have this feeling as well, but I would need you to do the research and confirm that to me, to be honest, because I'm not 100% sure here. But yeah, definitely, the early game is going to suffer. The main idea here is just to survive with the durability patch. It's a little bit earlier for things like Kayle, Kassadin, who really suffer before they get to their ultimates, before they get to their level 6. They really suffer in the laning phase. So you just survive, you make sure you don't die, don't give away the kills to your opponents, especially to Corki, who would love to have an early kill in the game. And after that, you just wait, and then you will be fine. It's okay, boys. We scale.
Said every team composition on this patch. It's really upsetting. It's certainly a different world to last season where games were over in 15 minutes and you got to kind of just have a little drink and enjoy your life for 10 minutes while the team actually closed out. But I don't know. It's got its positives and negatives. It's much more entertaining to watch. It's much more entertaining to play. Casting it is my job, but you know, it's been interesting, and the top laners are definitely trying to keep the interest going as Curl once again going aggressively onto Vankstead, who's decided to run towards his wave rather than away from it, and once again will be cut down. Curl putting on a clinic.
It's so interesting because there was the Ignite used this time from Vankstead, but it's Olaf. He has the shielding. Apart from all the other sustain he has the shielding that actually saves him so nicely from that Ignite, making sure that it's not just not killing him, it doesn't really do much damage. Look at it, still half of HP bar was available for him by the time he recalled. That was such a safe second kill for him. He just needs to keep snowballing from here on. He needs to keep pushing, and you already can see that he will be able to do so. I mean, again, if we get to the late game here, I'm not sure how exactly this top lane is going to look, but for now, for Vankstead, it definitely looks pretty devastating. He's farming up, which is good for him. Jax needs to be farming up. He will be still useful later on if he goes to the side lanes without joining the team fights, maybe necessarily, but just making sure that there is a split push available for the team. That's something we see quite some Jax players be doing, even if they're ahead. But here, if you're below, it's especially important for you.
We've got a little bit of an insight into mid lane as well. Denzel still being aggressive, has got Errol about to wave a farm behind, and he's going to have to run away straight into Neudit's hands, who's going to be able to protect him with his big bear claws as Vankstead looked to make a roam work, wasn't able to do so, and now has spent a little bit more time when Curl is running on down, hiding in Pixel Brush. Vangstead could be in trouble here.
Oh,
Just an undertone out.
Oh, that's so nice. I sometimes forget that you can actually jump on these flowers in the jungle, and it's always so nice to see Jax actually doing that and escaping the death. But is he escaping it though?
I don't know, the fight's still running down, and Vangstead might not die here, but actually Curl going aggressive one more, so doesn't quite kill Vangstead, but this is definitely a top lane that's unpleasant for him. Curl thinking about going for the dive, thinking about stopping the recall, but decides, no, I'm just going to keep control of this top lane, knowing that teleport isn't going to be available. And for Raid right now, this is looking exceptionally great.
No teleport on the top lane means you can push forward the minion waves, you can potentially even take some turret plates for yourself. Make sure you have a lot of gold fueled in your pockets, make sure you get to the items as soon as possible, and maybe start roaming the other lanes as well. But if you don't, Olaf can just stay on the top lane and keep pushing forward, because it's a constant push, especially early on, and it's really hard to put something up there to make sure you stop him. In the meantime, first break though, quite some crossplay on the map coming here from Rising Dawn, trying to get some dragons stacked up for themselves. I really want to see what soul it's going to be. I was thinking about Mountain potentially could be a nice one, but it's out of options, so I'm having my fingers crossed for the Hextech one.
Yeah, being able to move around the map quickly is always super entertaining, and having dragons that are more interesting does mean that teams are more likely to contest, because you got Hextech and Inferno, boy oh boy, there's going to be some fighting. If you've got like Cloud, it's like, oh, that's fun, I guess. We won't die for that dragon particularly, don't worry about it. But just looking at how the game has panned out for us right now, it's a little bit of a slow one. And I said going into this game that we were looking at the junglers because the onus isn't on laners necessarily to get things working, but it's been all about Curl on the top side so far when it comes to how the teams are performing. A little bit of a lead for Rate off the back of that Olaf. But Rising Dawner keeping things ticking over quite well in other departments. You can see Denzel still bullying Errol around. Level 6 has been obtained by Cassidy, so he should be feeling a little bit more secure and have a little bit more ability to actually take the fight to Corki if he wants to. And then the bot lane, things looking very, very even. So interested to see how these two teams want to react to the map situation that we've got at the moment. And it looks like it's going to be the Rift Herald started up, utilizing Curl's priority in the top side.
The ultimates are actually available for both junglers right now, and if I'm looking at Lilia, this is a pretty important ultimate for the team. If she decides to go to the lanes, if she decides to start going to the side lanes, this is the time for her to start actually doing it and being proactive there. Maybe trying to help out the top lane a little bit, or potentially trying to boost up the bot lane somehow, because Israel is having a nice time there with the Yuumi, with the sustain that he gets from her. Yuumi cannot really do a lot of healing, because her mana costs are absolutely crazy for the healing, but still she provides the shielding and she provides some of that healing, making sure that you can stay on the lane pretty safely. And you're standing against Sona. Looking at the support matchup here, Sona suffers from mana issues as well, just so much. Oh my god, is it going to be another kill? No, it's not.
Well, I mean, Vax has gone to below half health. Cole does have the ultimate, which allows him to run through the stun coming through from the Jax, which he might. He decides against, but now Vangsted's used that one up. Could be in a little bit of bother as the minions will crash in. Errol on the other side, that needs to be careful, but Noisy running through, getting the stun damage down onto Denzel. He will die. Errol looking to escape now, but turns, and it's a double for Rate in the mid lane. Disaster for Rising Dawn.
Oh, these are... No, it's one kill in the end for Kassadin, but still it's pretty nice for him. Another one going to Udyr. Could have been nicer for Errol if he got both of them. A little bit additional gold for him with a double kill, making sure he gets to the items sooner. But still, yes, 4-0 already, and we're not even 10 minutes in the game yet. It's a crazy game, and the Herald has been released. Everything is happening at once. We have the replay of what exactly happened in the mid lane with Denzel, making sure he gets Errol pretty low in health bar, and here comes the ultimate from Lydia I was just talking about. With Errol making sure he gets quite far away from the enemies, making sure he buys himself some time, and he has a jungler up and available for him. There is some control coming in, there is quite some damage coming in from that Udyr, and boom, you suddenly get so nicely out of the situation that looked pretty desperate at some point for you.
Yeah, really nice positioning from Noided, and I really like the fact that Errol flashed away from the initial damage burst coming through from Denzel, because that allowed his ultimate to be up and available. No cooldown on that one, so we could dive back in to give that little bit of extra damage that was required to grab the first kill. If he decided to ult away, he wouldn't have been able to get the re-engage, and the play still might have happened, but it might not have been as clean as it looked for Raids. But right now, the game's looking very clean for them. As you said, 4-0 up. Gold lead hitting about 2,500 gold at the peak right now. And for Errol, hits that level 9. And Kazan, as we all know, he's an abjectly terrifying man when the game gets later, because he can dive onto your carries, cause real issues. And when you've got Cork and Ezreal, who like to play at range, like to be poking down, have a little bit of mobility as well, Castan's a great response, because he's going to be able to access those squishy backline members even when they think they're safe.
Especially Cassadin with the Everfrost. He gets into your backline, he makes sure there is the slow or the stun coming in, and you cannot get away from that Cassadin anymore. Even
Flash away is very, very nice. Limitless unable to find him with the ultimate as Sona will burn down and help him out with that sustain. But Ezreal is still going to be a very potent threat in the bot side. And because there's a Yuumi there, the roaming, it can happen, but it doesn't happen as frequently as someone like the Sona is going to do. And in the top side, Vankstead is still just going to be regretting his life decisions.
That's very well said. For Yuumi, actually, the roaming can happen, but usually in order to enable it, you need to have the jungler who's going to come to the bot lane, kind of serve as a taxi for Yuumi, pick the Yuumi up on you, and then maybe escort her to the mid lane where they're going to have some fun together. That happens sometimes, especially if you have a very mobile jungler. But here, are we going to see some action here happening for the Dragon? Because it's been started, but Raid really don't want to give it away.
They're going to be contesting. Noided thinking about running on through. Wants to try and grab it. Won't be able to do so as Falarel secures the objective. It will be roosted up by the Jhin, who's going to open up the curtains. Cool. One shot, two shot. Decent needed. Denzel caught by the third, but will be able to get away with the package speed. The Hex Gates are activated across the rift as Rising Dawn Esports take their second neutral objective.
And it's going to be my favorite dragon. It's going to be another fight here on the bot.
Hoyes is in a bit of trouble, though. Denzel goes aggressive and will be able to take him out. Velocity too quick on the retreat and manages to escape.
Okay, finally, a kill here for Corki. Must be feeling a little bit better about his life right now. But what happened before is something we haven't spoke about the Raid's composition is the amount of control they have, but specifically the targeted control. Not that much of a CC, but a targeted control coming from Udyr, coming from Kassadin, coming from Sona's ultimate as well. There are so many ways you can try to catch those carries in the enemy team, and if you want to eliminate them, you want to make sure you get this Lilia away. You want to make sure after that you switch to Ezreal, maybe, or to Corki, because here you can have a little bit of decision making. But here on later, wait, are we going to? Oh, we have more action. Yes, we do. Look at that ultimate from Lilia.
Yeah, she's running down, can't find Noided, throws the bowling ball, but it doesn't go too far. And now Raid needs to be a little bit careful. Rising Dawn still keeping some aggression up, and the Medivac just there for Limitless.
That was very close, but he manages to get back to his base safely. Oh my god.
And you see Noided's there as well. Vankstead holding on to that stun just until Noided goes for the stun, but actually never goes for it, so there's nothing to dodge. Vankstead still holding on to that E. Staying on the tower just to defend it, not allowing any more plates to go over to the Olaf, because Vankstead also needs every minion that he can grab, because he's been burnt out of farm for a little bit of time now. That early aggression from Olaf really setting this Jax behind.
And pretty far behind. There's only one level difference between them right now, but if you look at the farm, if you look at the gold difference between the top laners, I think it should be... Thank you very much. Oh my god, look at that gold difference between the top laners. It's absolutely massive. This Olaf is so far ahead right now. So right now for Vankstead, he really needs to play very defensively, very safely. Just try to stay as close to safety as possible. Farm up, wait until you get the opportunity to scale up, if you're given that opportunity, of course, because Raid are still looking into ways to try to shut him down, and it makes all the sense. You don't want to see these Jax getting any sort of lead.
Well, this is being quite aggressive. If Falarel was hanging around in Tribrush unspotted because of that red ward, but they know there's red ward in there now by using that trap, and it allows Hoist to just say, I'm going to back away and grab these Krugs instead of contesting nothing under tower. Denzel also moving down, though. What can Raid do? They're going to just back away as Rising Dawn Esports stepping forward. Falarel caught out on a ward. Will clean up the last couple of Krugs. Meanwhile, on the top side, though, a lot of pressure's being put on the bot lane, but it's Karl that's trying to grab himself the first tower of the game.
Okay, it's going to be the tower race here. Who's going to grab the first? I think it's going to be the bot lane. It's just way too many people there. And yes, indeed, that's going to be the first turret going for Rising Dawn. But Raider answering on the top lane. Again, Olaf and Jax are both the champions who want to be staying on the side lanes for as long as possible. Not necessarily joining the fights too much, but just split pushing as crazy, because that's what they do the best. And you can see this turret on the top lane went down pretty quickly. And I have a feeling that for Rising Dawn, they might need to send more than one person on the top soon, because there is always this Olaf there. There is also the attention from Noided coming to the top side. It's very scary. You really don't want to lose a lot of prio on the top side of the map, because the Barons will be going up at some point in the game, and you will need to fight for them, because that Olaf with a Baron is going to push forward so quickly, you will not have the time to react to that.
Rising Dawn, they're going to have to find a way of reacting to the Olaf at some stage in this game. He's been left to his own devices, has slowed down quite substantially since those first early levels. Vangstead giving him a lot of respect and just hanging out behind his tower, making sure that Olaf can't get any more of a lead than he's already obtained, as the rest of the teams have broken open the map a little bit and are looking to move things around. We've got to drag it up in 50 seconds. It's not a mountain, it is a hex tech for those of you just joining us. Classic little bug there from the observation client. But Raider just trying to hold on to this mid lane, making sure that there's no priority given to Rising Dawn, but the Ezreal's just poking, prodding away, making sure that Raid can't step up. And it's going to be Noided who has to step in to allow this to occur. Remember, Rising Dawn Esports are actually only one dragon away from setting up Soul Point, because they grabbed the first two themselves, and grabbing Hextech would be massive for them. And currently they're the ones who control the river, but Hoyes is on the other side.
On the other hand, if you look at Raid, they can stack 4 Hextech dragons on top of each other, and it's going to be massive for them, because the attack speed, the ability haste you get from each dragon is pretty big if you manage to stack 4 of them on top of each other. So it's pretty smart to sometimes actually give away the first 2 dragons to see what soul it's going to be, and if it's stackable, you find yourself in a good situation as long as you're able to fight for this objective. And it looks like Raid are here, and they're ready to fight for it. They have a massive prio on this side of the map right now, especially with the Herald being released on the mid lane. I don't think Vangstead is going to be able to stop it before the... No, he is. He is going to be able
the
to
minion
stop
wave
it.
was able to just stand between it, make sure that it wasn't getting too much, and that Herald was just used to allow Raid the priority of the time to grab themselves the dragon, which they were able to get very effectively. So while it's not necessarily the flashiest play on the second Herald, will feel a little bit worth a Raid to allow themselves a 5-minute breathing room where they don't have to fight over another dragon. And of course, at the moment for Raid, going to be feeling pretty confident in skirmishes, but there's no point flipping objectives when you don't want to give Rising Dawn Esports any opportunity to get back onto level playing field.
No. Raid want to be stomping from here on. They cannot give them any opportunity to breathe in, breathe out, and try to regain the momentum. Raid need to be going very aggressively from here on. Not maybe overstepping, because there are still ways for Rising Dawn to try to catch them off guard. But they're getting less and less of these ways, to be honest, because I'm looking at Aero. He is farming up. He is already at 2 items, plus the boots completed for him. He is very strong with a bounty on his head. Then you still have that Olaf on the top lane who you kind of cannot forget about at all, because he's going to be going to the top, he's going to be going to the bot lane, he's going to make sure that you have this constant pressure on the side lanes. Oh,
there's the access we talked about, and it's followed up on perfectly by Raid, and they're going to be able to take down... Oh, no, the cat actually on a sliver of health manages to dive onto the diff. LRML providing the Uber service away. Other right chat apps are available. As Raid is going to try and press the advantage a little bit further, take out the minion wave, but they can look towards the next objectives. There's no Baron, of course, because we're still pre-20 minutes, and Dragon also gone, so it looks like there's just going to be a couple of kills on a little bit of farm. There's Raid back away.
Or maybe turrets, because there is still a minute before the Baron. If you want to go for the early Baron, you might want to re-establish the prio on the top side of the map. You have Olaf, so you can do it pretty nicely. That's a beautiful recall, by the way, that Lily. I've never seen it fully. Oh, and it's not going to be stopped! Ah, you tried, but you didn't manage to. So, you want to regain that priority in the top side with the vision and with pushing the minion waves forward to make sure that Rising Dawn have much harder time answering to you if you decide to start the early burn. And then, yeah, I agree with you. Some kills will be just so beneficial for Raid here. They need to keep snowballing their mid laner. Maybe some kills to the bot side will be good as well, because Jhin, he is going to scale, but he would love to have some kills in his pockets as well, because he's going with a Gale Force, so he needs to stack up some more items for him just with a pure damage.
20 minutes coming up, the worm will arrive, and as you mentioned, priority just gained by Curl on the top side so effectively. Noided is providing a bit of a guard in the jungle to make sure that no one's going to be rotating up towards the Olaf, and could even have looked to make aggressive plays. Denzel goes into the jungle, but it looks like he's just going to be safe, ulting away, finds out Noided on the Udyr. The ward will have also picked him up, and he's going to be able to safely sit under his tower. The rest of the team is hanging around that kind of area, but Herald diving in onto Limitless, managed to get the root down, but Hoyes, it goes wide But he's not going to be able to get the Deadly Flourish down. Rate unable to secure themselves the kill, but showing how much pressure and priority they can get even on targets that feel like they're safe.
There is a little bit of CC that Raid might be lacking going into the mid and the late game, if we get to the late game here, of course. Because yeah, you have Sona with her ultimate, but you need to really position yourself very well. And with Jhin, it might be hard for Sona to position herself in the way to get as many people caught by her ultimate as possible. Because you need to be around Jhin, who needs to be staying safe. So it means that he's going to try to be standing as far from the actual fight as possible, just to drop his ultimate in a safe position, because he's just oh so vulnerable when he goes into the ulti. And for Sona, it's the question now, do you stay with the AD carry and make sure you protect him at all costs? Do you go with a team with the engagers? Do you try to put your ultimate on as many people as possible? We need to see. We haven't really seen like a massive 5-on-5 team fight in this game yet, right?
No, there hasn't been one of those just yet, because Dragons have all been very much a case of macro dominance has secured these objectives. We could see one in a minute's time with Dragon coming up, of course. Baron is always an option, but I don't think either of these teams are necessarily looking to do it super quickly, which is really what you need to do, or super safely is more important when you're in these stages of the game. But it looks like I've got a feeling that we're going to see at least a 4v4 sooner rather than later. Of course, we've got champions that do like to be on the side lane. We mentioned Olaf, we mentioned Jax, of course, Kassadin as well. Doesn't hate being on the side lane, and as the carrier of that teleport for Rate. You've got to imagine that if they want to be going cross-map and playing the opposite side to the objective that's next on the spawn timer, it's likely to be the Kassadin rather than the Olaf going into that side lane.
Most probably, but you really need to have the teleport available here because you really need to fight for that dragon. You don't want to give the soul away, you don't want to allow Rising Dawn to stack up even two Hextech dragons on top of each other. For Rising Dawn, it's pretty much the same. They need to be fighting for the dragon. It's such an important soul for both of the teams. So yeah, I agree with you. We might see the fight here, and it's starting.
Arrow managed to get a catch on the Denzel. He's got the package though, but won't be able to use it because he's taken down. Ultimate from Lilia will hold them in place, but that's just going to be used to disengage as Rising Dawn look to back away. Panarel though in a little bit of trouble, decides not to re-engage. Vangstead moving into the situation, but it'll be a 4v5 because they've already lost their mid laner. And Toys is going to be able to get Deadly Flourish down. It looks like Rate should be able to just secure this dragon without a contest, and that's going to set them up with two Hextech dragons already. More and more power going into their pockets.
One thing I'm not seeing from Rising Dawn is the engage in the fights that we've seen so far. Every fight has been starting by Rate. They have the, of course, they have the engage tools. They have the Kassadin jumping in. They have the order. They have the all. They can just go in and start the fight for you. But for Rising Dawn, you need to find these ways to be proactive whenever you know that there is a fight starting, and you absolutely need to fight there because you have the, as you mentioned, the Lilia's ultimate. It was used so defensively, just making sure that the rest of the team gets away. You can use it offensively, and you need to try the ways. And then with Bangstead, Jax is the champion who loves to be finding the flank maneuvers like Errol is doing.
Yeah, Limitless managed to go over the wall, but he's going to be rooted up. Valorel's the other side though, so Errol quite smartly says, I'm not going to follow any further. Just going to give you a little bit of a jump scare before backing your way, and Rising Dawn Esports get out of that one. But you've got to feel like in a few levels time, Caston's only a couple of levels from 16. If he was level 16 there, that might have been a dead Ezreal.
He is getting the death cap for himself very soon, and that is going to be just so much damage immediately being thrown at you. And you don't really have enough sustain, I think, even with Yuumi on your team. You don't have enough sustain to do anything about that Kassadin jumping into your backline. Yes, you have Ezreal who's going to dash away, but still it's Kassadin. He doesn't care. He has his own ways to dash into. He has the flash available for him. You are not going to be able to get either from him or from his incredible damage. And that's the problem currently for Rising Dawn. How do they approach the fights? How do they shut down this Kassadin early on? Can you even do it? Do you have the means to approach the fight with this mindset?
In the mid lane, Jhin just used that ultimate to try and thin things out, but Rising Dawn still looking very healthy, and Raid are going to be forced to dodge and dive away from this poke, and this is what Rising Dawn Esports are going to be very happy to do because they've got Corki and Ezreal. They've got Yuumi as well, who's going to give them sustain, and Lilia, while not providing too much, does have the opportunity to grab that big disengage with the ultimate and the Q, which we saw in the last teamfight situation. So while Raid are looking very comfortable, they've got a 5,500 gold lead. Defending towers is still going to be a little bit tricky for them. Is Velocity going to step up? Will he be able to stop anything? Yep, just Fat RL and Limitless actually going to be sticking around as well. So trying to keep that aggression going. But Rate, they're not untouchable in this game.
Speaking of aggression, look at the side lanes right now. April is constantly somewhere. Curl is constantly somewhere. They're pushing the minion waves forward, which means that Rising Dawn don't really have the opportunities to gather together to group up as 5-member group. They need to have somebody on the side lanes pushing the minions away, because otherwise you're going to lose the init turret, potentially your Nexus, not Nexus rather, but an inhibitor turret as well. It's hard for them. In order to fight Raid right now, they need to group up, and they're not being given the opportunity to do so.
Well, there's action going on all over the map. Rising Dawn still keeping the pressure on, have a little bit of vision control of their own jungle, which is always good to see at this stage when you're a little bit behind, as Vang's they're just going to be clearing up a top lane wave. Noided is there, so the Jax does need to be careful. We've kind of maybe wrote off Vang's a little bit in the early stages when he gave up those 2 early solo kills, but he's been quietly going about his business, has found his way into 230 farm, which obviously is 30 behind Curl, his lane opponent. But Jack scales exceptionally well. He's grabbed 2 items, including that Frozen Heart, which is going to be exceptionally useful, primarily against the Udyr and the Olaf, it must be said. But definitely someone that we need to keep our eyes on, because he could come out of nowhere in some of these team fights.
I need to see him in the team fights. First of all, I need to see another team fight to see how well the Rising Dawn are going to scale in there. And secondly, I need to see Vanguard in them, or maybe right here. Oh, the damage.
Everyone's thinking about going back in, though. And now he's used that dodge. Noid is going to be able to come in and get the stun for free. The damage is there. Just as we talk about him. Thanks,
Yes.
no.
Oh my goodness, it's the casting curse for you today, apparently. You talk about somebody, you try, to give them a chance, and boom, they die immediately. And here is the early Baron being started by Raid. Not that early anymore,
Ooh, teleport coming in onto the bottom side, though, as Rising Dawn look to defend, but Valorel goes low, taken down, cut down by Curl. Is going to look for a second, being able to get through that stun. The final chapter, and now Denzel trying to get onto Errol, but he's going to be able to jump away as Curl now moves forward. Denzel, exhausted, flashing away, will not be able to survive. This is a triple. The undertow doesn't land, but could it be a quadra? It might be, as Curl unable to find anything. He's so low, but he gets away from the ultimate, looking to try and get the Hex Gate, dodging away, and will be able to slide on out of there. Baron secured, 5 members of Raid, a triple kill for Curl, and just like that, they speed things up again.
So the whole team is basically taking the Baron, and then there is this Olaf who is like, I need to get my triple kill in this game, and I'm going to kill everybody on the enemy team. Almost. Well, it's still 3 persons, so the majority. This is crazy. Olaf is usually the early game bully, but look at how useful he can be in the late game as well, because he still has the damage. Look at the itemization. He has the damage. And now, that's going to be the 3rd Dragon for Raid. It's going to be the soul point for them this time. If they get to the soul, if we see the soul happening, unless they decide to finish the game earlier, they're going to be just so damn scary in the team fights, because that static shift is going to help Curl so much, it's going to help Hoyt and Noid just so much, it's going to be insane.
Wow, the rate. Just, it felt a little bit slow in the last few minutes. They were just kind of holding their time, but then they pulled the trigger, and now it's a case of speeding things up, accelerating through this bot side, looking to maybe break into the base as Limitless has to dive away. The curtain call will be used. Noid goes kind of low as Limitless dives away. He takes the 3rd shot, but won't take the 4th, as it is going to go wide. Rising Dawn looking to defend, but bot lane is the focus. Mid lane's taken by Rate. And Denzel and Falarella, one's clearing bot lane from Curl, who might be looking to get a bit more damage. The route onto Lilia, who goes low, taken low silence, but manages to skip away. And now Vangstead and Denzel turn up to defend even further, but Raid are going to be able to kill this one. You've got to feel like this could be near the end, but for Raid, whether they want to push forward, they're looking to try and get onto the Ezreal. A lot of damage coming out of this Cassidy, who does manage to get the kill on to Limitless. The second inhibitor will be the focus. It will go down. They help us a little bit low. Nice ultimate going through. Cut up by the package, but Denzel flies up the other side of the fight as Curl goes godlike, securing the kill onto Lilia. Now looking towards Vangstead on the Jax. Will be forcing him to dive away. He's level 16, but it's too little too late for the top laner. He's going to be rooted up. A lot of damage coming on through. Will be able to dodge away from the last couple of auto attacks and get back to the steps as found in Denzel. Diving back forward, has Yumi on his back, looking for Noid, secures the kill. Performance rate still stand. They've still got themselves the Baron buff, but they're looking to get away. As we see Vangstead moving forward, potentially trying to dive onto Velocity. Very nice slow come through from the Everfrost onto Errol. Curl still in full retreat. Will be looking to run away as fast as his little legs can carry him. As Velocity's no mana, Errol's no mana. The damage is there. Curl, low health bar, but looking to get the damage down. Olaf, passive, won't be able to save him this time, as it's a shutdown for Jax, but Rate get away.
Okay, the game is not going to finish here. Rising Dawn managed to successfully defend their base. They have 2 inhibitors down though, and I think one of the turrets of the Nexus, I need to see the minimap, but I think one of them is down as well. So they have 2 lanes open. They have Nexus almost naked and open for the enemy team, so one successful push or one successful team fight or any fight from Raid, and they will be able to finish the game. At least we can see some action happening here from Rising. There was an absolutely incredible ultimate coming from Lily at some point next to the mid lane next inhibitor, sorry, but I'm looking at this fight, so I cannot really speak, but look at the damage coming from Eero! Look at Limitless Health Bar, it's just disappearing! Immediately, boom, and it's gone. Here, that's going to be the drowsiness coming from Lilia. That's going to be the ultimate jumping in. Good opportunity for Kulki and for Lilia to step up, for Bangsta to try to finally do something, but no, there's just way too damage and sustainability from Raid at this point.
And you can see Denzel turning back up and ultimately does save his team the game at this point, but with Yumi and Corki not really being in that last fight, things were just a little bit too easy for Raid to break down, break open the base, and secure themselves a Nexus Tower as well, making fighting on the defense even harder on the next occasion. Now, Raid, of course, is going to slide on over to that top side, grab themselves the last inhibitor tower if they can. No Baron empowerment yet left for them, unfortunately, but we're going to see a fight coming through. Falarel looking to get something going alongside the Yumi, but Last Shadow manages to just catch on the final tick. Hoyes needs to be careful, but Falarel going to go low, dodges away from the deadly flush. Offside Errol goes to half health as Denzel unloads the cannons onto him, gets silenced and taken down. Hoyes with the curtain cooling, calls one more and moves towards the tower.
Are they going? Oh my god, he's absolutely unstoppable right now. Yes, they are opening the third lane actually as well. They want to have absolutely all the objectives taken in this game apparently, except for the two dragons. And they are going to finish the game here. Look at that.
Looking to try and defend, but he's caught out by the root and will be taken down by the rest of Raid as they collapse on through. They take down the tower, they take down the Nexus, and they secure themselves the kill. Errol on the casting was absolutely terrifying. 8-1-1 on Curl's Olaf. That's a big win for Raid as they take down Rising Dawn.
It's not just a big win, it's the fourth win in a row for them. They are on a massive win streak right now. They must be feeling just so great, and that was a very definitive win for them. They were stomping from the top side, knowing that they have this laning prio for them, and they used it so smartly that later on in the game, when Olaf left the laning, he was absolutely unstoppable. Him and Errol, the enemy team just did not know what to do with them. How do you stop them? They have so much power, they have so much mobility, and they're so sustainable. What do you do about them? Apparently, you can't do anything.
I mean, Curl in the early game was monstrous. Errol just sat back, weathered the storm of Denzel's Corki in the early stages, and then was an absolute tyrant when it came to team fighting later on. We're going to jump to a short break now. When we come back, there's going to be 2 more interviews, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.